Hi, and welcome to the Newberry Chronicles. This is a podcast where two people read through every Newbery medal-winning book, and then we talk about it. I'm Michael.
And I'm Rebecca.
And this week we were talking, we don't really record this on a weekly basis, unfortunately, but this time we were talking about, it's like this, Cat. There's no way to say that, you don't sound like Cary Grant or something, but...
You definitely sounded like Cary Grant.
I don't think I did, but I wish I did. Mm-hmm. In my head, I have a Cary Grant voice.
That's what you were going for.
Like Katharine Hepburn. Honestly, it sounds more like Katharine Hepburn than Cary Grant. But whatever the case, It's Like This, Cat by Emily Cheney Neville. This is the book that won the Newbery Medal in 1964. And we're going to talk about it in a little bit. But first, as always, we were going to talk about what have we been reading recently? It's been a month maybe since our last podcast.
I think so. Not too long.
For us,
the span of our other podcast episodes.
That's right. For us who are not on a weekly schedule, we are doing this pretty promptly, I would say. Mm-hmm. So maybe we have fewer books to talk about.
We do. I do, at least.
Rebecca, what fewer books have you read recently?
I just finished a lovely little book called Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I just finished this yesterday. I think I've said on here that I need to start writing down where I get books recommended to me so that I can tell people when I like them.
Most of the time it is from Ann Patchett's
I think this one was.
short-form video content.
I think this one was. And it was just really lovely. It's about a woman in her mid-30s who is she's a writer, she's gotten her MFA, and she's gone to school and done all the things, but is working in a restaurant and writing on her own time, and also grieving the loss of her mother. And so it's just really a little, I would say it's a slice of life story in her world.
She's working in a restaurant. Does she slice things?
You know,
in the restaurant?
They do have a pastry chef. She's simply a waiter, so I think she just passes the slices of pies and various goods. But it's also about her relationship with various men that she meets along the way. But really the story is about her and her book and coming to write it in the end. And it's a book that's about really just everyday things told in a really beautiful, poetic way. And so I really, really enjoyed this book. I think that you would enjoy it.
As someone who has an MFA.
It might stress you out, actually, but I liked it.
Why would it stress me out?
Well, we can talk about that later. But it was a good book.
This is ominous.
I just mean, you understand that life of, I got this degree, and I am a writer, but I can never find time to write, and even when I do write, I don't really know how to put it out there, who to talk to, and, that sort of thing.
You're right. That is very familiar to me.
So, I enjoyed it, not living that life. It might...
I've never worked in a restaurant, though, which honestly seems like one of the worst jobs.
Yeah, that part, I think it did a really good job of, displaying what is very, quaint and beautiful to, patrons of a restaurant and what is really terrifying and horrible to the people that are working to make it that quaint and beautiful setting. So, it was a great book. I highly recommend it. I also read Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult, and... I
heard about this one. Rebecca had some opinions about this book.
Michael pointed out to me when I started reading this book, he was like, I don't think you actually like her books. Why are you reading that? I was like, no, but he was right. I think, here's the thing.
It's there, right? Etched in wax. Rebecca said I am right.
Here's the thing about Jodi Picoult is she does tell a compelling story that keeps you going and you want to find out what happens, but I don't actually like the way that she portrays humanity, and she is doing the same thing. She wrote this book in 2020, so this is not
I feel like everybody's 2020. We can just give them a mulligan on that.
Okay, so it's no, not 2020, 2016.
Also 2016 is a mulligan year.
Lily, Writers and Lovers was a 2020 book. So they did a good job.
Some people did okay.
Let's just focus, okay?
Some people wrote novella in 2020 that nobody else read.
Jodi Picoult has done the thing that every female author who is white and is middle-aged feels they must do, and it is write a book about race. But what they then do...
Foot race?
Shut up. But what they then do is put every microaggression that they have ever like studied or read about into one book in a way that feels like very cringe and inauthentic and like.
Does someone try to touch a black
I
person's
have
hair?
to remember. No, that actually doesn't happen. Thank you.
Man,
for
I feel like
pointing
that's
that
like
out.
a top 5
That
microaggression
didn't
that I heard about in 2020.
That didn't happen. Here's what I will say. I think that this book would have been really good for me to read like several years ago when I hadn't read from like a lot of Black authors or other people talking about these things. But having read it after I kind of like have done some of that work felt very much like, okay, and I also felt a little bit cringe because she's telling the story from the perspective of 3 different people. A Black woman who is like a defendant in this legal case that gets brought up against her, a white woman who is her public defender, and then a white male white supremacist who is, did you say the plaintiff? I don't know. I don't remember all the legal terms. But anyway.
The plaintiff is the person
who's suing this woman.
Is accusing, right.
Yeah,
the
so
person who's
the plaintiff.
initiated the lawsuit
Yeah.
is the plaintiff.
Yeah, so like you're telling this story from 3 different perspectives, which she normally does. What I didn't love about listening to it on audio is you have when you get to like the white public defender's perspective, she is like saying the Black woman's words and trying to use this like accent that was very cringe for me. So anyway, I appreciate the work and the research that Jody did for this book. I did not particularly enjoy it. Okay, I read Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner, which my friend Cade recommended to me. I remember who recommended that one to me.
Shout out
And
to Cade.
this one, I was on a wait list for a long time. It's probably on a lot of people's radar if you're reading like modern literature right now. But this was a memoir that was written by Michelle about her relationship with her mom, who died of cancer. And so you watch, but she also had a very deep connection with her mom through food. And knowing that that is the way that her mom showed love was in the way that she cooked food. And so as her mom is dying, she is learning how to make all these Korean dishes to try to help her like bring back her appetite. She also navigates a lot her relationship with her father. It was a really beautiful, beautiful memoir. I read it at a time for me that was probably not the time when I should have read it. Like we had like a health scare with my sister, who is now very okay. But when I was traveling to go be with her in recovery, I'm listening to this woman grieve her mom that died of cancer, and that was not the right decision. The book was wonderful. I think it was very well done, told very well. Like, the description of food was very beautiful. It was very, very good. I read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone with my son. I think I shared on the podcast last episode that, like, we take turns with which books we are, like, reading together at nighttime because I got really tired of reading the Pokemon Encyclopedia.
The Pokemon Encyclopedia was a trial.
It was a trial.
For us parents.
It really was. So we read See You Around Sam, which I talked about last episode, and then we read a Captain Underpants book, or Dogman, I can't remember which one.
Which was our son's pick, right?
Yes. And then it was my pick again, and we did Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and let me tell you, he is sold. He is sold.
Birthday party is Harry Potter themed.
He cut his hair.
Within weeks of reading Harry Potter, his hair, which he has not cut since probably 2021 or something like that, gone.
Yeah.
Harry Potter theme for a birthday party. Harry Potter Legos.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Potter fanatic.
He is. He really is, and like But I really enjoyed reading it with him the second time because I know that there's a lot to like criticize about J.K. Rowling now, and very justly so, and I do that. But reading it with him and being able to point those things out in the moment and then him see these patterns has been really lovely. Like, there was a part where like J.K. does this thing that a lot of authors do where you're talking about a character you don't like, and in order to show your readers that you don't like them, you compare them to animals that you find to be ugly, or you talk a lot about how fat they are or how lazy they are or whatever. It's very fat phobic. And I was like pointing that out to Jarvis, and I said something like, there are some authors who think that that means something about your character if you're in a bigger body, like you are, I don't remember exactly what I said, but sort of like pointing out to him that they decide things about their character because the size that their body is. And Jarvis was like, well, that's certainly not true, but this is still a good story. And I think that was a really beautiful moment for me, because I do think that there are some things there that we can criticize and also still be really compelled by the story of like friendship and adventure and discovery. And anyway, I'm really glad to be reading it with him. And we're also reading the Gem K illustrated version, so it's like a new experience for me with this story, because it's like these are not the versions that I read when I read them.
Really nice illustrations too. I do feel like that the illustrations we grew up in are iconic in their own way, but they feel very much of their time. They feel very much like mid-budget, like YA, whereas these are lavish.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for this journey. I think we're probably going to have to stop after number 3 based on like how old he is and his sensitivity level.
He's not ready to see Cedric Diggory murdered in cold blood by the Dark Lord Voldemort.
I don't know that he is. We'll see.
The bigger question is, are you ready to read 200 tedious pages about the Quidditch World Cup?
I don't think
that is the real gauntlet of the Goblet of Fire.
I don't think that I am, but what's really funny is like our kid is not really like a sports kid. I mean, he plays sports, but like he's really into the Quidditch parts, which is funny to me because those were always
He should have been at our college circa 2010 when they had the Quidditch team. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Anyway, I need to move on because I know I've taken up a lot of time. But last book I read, I don't have much to say about it because I didn't really like it. And it's called I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This book is all over the book talks. So if you read literary fiction, you probably have read this or know about this. I did not like it. It is a book about a woman, well, it's told from a woman's perspective who is like trapped in this bunker sort of situation with all these other women.
Like in a cult kind of bunker?
Yeah, but they don't know why they're there. They don't know how long they've been there.
They suffer from amnesia.
They don't know. No, they don't have any like way to track time. They learn how to track time. But like the older women can remember living the life before. The female narrator that's telling the story was a child when she was abducted, so she can't remember anything. So it's about like her coming of age as a woman and also trying to figure out why they're there. But it's very much, I didn't realize that it was going to be more a philosophical treatise than anything, and I don't love that. I wanted to know answers, and I'm just going to tell you, you never get them. So if you need answers...
So you don't know why they're in the bunker?
No. You never know. I probably
That's
shouldn't
just
have said
life,
that.
Isn't it? You ask a question why, and no one ever tells you.
This book was very wearisome to me, and I think that if I was like reading it with people, I would have like gotten more out of it but I did not enjoy it. So anyway, what did you read?
I've been convicted recently by the Holy Spirit that I talk too much on this podcast, so I'm going to lightning round my books. I've read 3 books.
Is the Holy Spirit named Rebecca?
The Holy Spirit is named... does the Holy Spirit have a name? It appears as a dove when Jesus gets baptized. But at any rate, I read 3 books since the last time that we podcast. It has been 1 month since my last confession, Father. The first book I read was called Knoxville, Tennessee, A Mountain City in the New South. Perceptive readers, and also readers who know us in real life, know that we live in Knoxville, Tennessee. And so I read this book that is a history of Knoxville, Tennessee, basically from the Civil War until when it was published. This is the second edition of this book by William Bruce Wheeler, and he's had a number of co-authors depending on the edition. This was the second edition, so it's the early 2000s, like 2004, 2005 when this was published. And it's mostly about the 20th century in Knoxville. It says it's from Reconstruction onward. The Reconstruction section is fairly small compared to the much larger 20th century section. And, Knoxville is a city that is kind of caught between being large enough to be significant, at least within Tennessee, but also not really having anything that happens in it of note of national politics or national history. Maybe the World's Fair in 1982 or 81. But for the most part, Knoxville is a city that is big enough to have a history that people have recorded, but not big enough that like people outside of Knoxville care about. And so if you live in Nashville or Memphis or Philadelphia or any, a lot of major cities have kind of like things people know about them otherwise. Knoxville, people know that Simpsons episode where they go to the World's Fair and there's the wig shop in the Sun Sphere. And then they may know the Tennessee Vols. So I was like, I don't know anything about Knoxville's history, really. And so I read this, and it's pretty good. The author has recently died, like within the past 5 years, I think. And I believe he was a professor of history at the University of Tennessee here. And it's pretty good. You can definitely tell that the author has a perspective on things. As you get closer to the present and into times in which the author would know people, you start to see that author's opinions of people kind of come out. Cass Walker is functionally a villain in this book because of his populist kind of really chaotic politics that were mostly, according to this author, disruptive to the progress of Knoxville. Like, this is basically like a liberal progressive perspective of Knoxville, and progressive in the sense of like the early 20th century progressive, where it's like about public works and about like modernization. And this author is very big on the figures in Knoxville's history that have modernized it, such as like put in waterworks, put in like big projects that, brought the city into the 20th century, industrialized the city. This author is maybe less sensitive about issues that I think now a lot of Knoxvillians are fairly sensitive about, such as issues of race. He talks, for instance, very positively about urban renewal, which is obviously a large civic project across many U.S. cities in like the 1950s and 60s, like through the Eisenhower and Johnson administrations. But now is considered like, this is a way of like, this was an early wave of like racial displacement, and a way that the local governments like, cleared slums as a pretext to eradicate racial minorities. He doesn't really have that perspective, at least in the early 21st century. So there's definitely like fun things. Like I enjoyed like seeing the history of Knoxville. Knoxville is a city that's changed quite a bit over the last, we've lived here about 13 years. It's changed a lot over that time. A lot of that time has been spent with the population being replaced as newcomers came in, such as ourselves. So it was kind of fun to see like kind of the old Knoxville in this. But it's definitely like got a perspective. Secondly, another book I read, Rebecca's smiling at me.
It's a really fast lightning round.
Lightning is fast, Rebecca. Secondly, I read a little book some people in this room may have heard of, called Frankenstein, The Modern Prometheus by Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Us and our friend, who we've mentioned, we have kind of an informal book club. Mm-hmm. We're reading Frankenstein. I have not read Frankenstein for probably 15 years. And it's very fun. It was very fun to return to Frankenstein. We all know Frankenstein, right? There's a scientist. He's influenced by like the philosophy of modernity and the Enlightenment. Also, though, the philosophy of alchemy, and discovers a way to reanimate flesh. That is the plot of Frankenstein.
No,
Why are you laughing?
I choked. Keep going.
This man is reanimating flesh, and you are laughing.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, Dr. Victor Frankenstein figures out how to reanimate dead bodies and decides to create the ideal man per his Enlightenment philosophy. Turns out he doesn't like doing that and quickly abandons his creation. His creation wanders the countryside, learns about Enlightenment philosophy himself, decides that my creator has created me to suffer, and I'm going to go on a killing spree because my creator has abandoned me. There is no allegorical implications at all within this for Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. We all know this. Anyway, I really liked it. One of the things that stood out to me in this reread was how very obvious it was that a very young person wrote this.
Oh.
It is very unsubtle with all of its themes. Characters basically state them. Characters basically read Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley's favorite books and she's like, aren't these people so smart for reading the, reading John Locke and reading, whatever other people that they were reading, reading the other romantics. She openly quotes her husband, Percy Shelley. She openly quotes, other romantic writers at the time. Like, it's basically like if like a modern kid wrote this and put in a bunch of anime characters. And I really like that about it. Also, it is very good. I love Frankenstein, and I still love Frankenstein. In our book club, we're specifically reading the 1818 version as opposed to the 1831 version, which is more commonly read. I have not read the 1831 version recently enough to tell you the difference between the two, but there are differences between the two. I enjoyed revisiting Frankenstein. Lastly, I read a book called Genderqueer, which the Guinness Book of World Records called the most banned book of the year in 2023.
Oh.
Let me tell you about people need to calm down.
Taylor Swift wrote a whole song about this.
I don't know what Taylor Swift thinks about the graphic novel memoir Genderqueer, written by Maya Kobabe, who uses the Spivak pronouns E, M, and air.
I've never heard of these.
Nor had I. But basically, this is a book about the author's life. The author begins the book by talking about how the author does not like writing about yourselves. And I'm really trying to use the pronouns correctly because these are unfamiliar to me.
Okay.
But as this author worked through their MFA in graphic novel writing, comic writing, whatever we call it, this author found it to be very compelling to talk about their life. So this author is basically about Maya's journey from an assigned female at birth person as they have a growing awareness of the fact that they are asexual and gender non-binary.
Okay.
Meaning they don't really feel at home in either the male or female genders, instead want a kind of like ambiguous presentation. And I'm already using the wrong pronouns. I will just lay my cards on the table. I find the they pronoun much more useful for non-binary people. However, this author specifically mentions these pronouns in this biography as like the moment that I don't even know how to pronounce these pronouns.
Okay.
I sound like an old man. However, the moment that this author found these pronouns spoke to this author.
Okay.
And so it is very important that these pronouns are used. And like, honestly, this is a very beautiful book. It is probably banned because there are fairly frank conversations about this author's relationship to this author's body. In the sense of, like, they talk about their genitalia, they talk about gynecological exams, they talk about, talk about how this author feels about sexual encounters, things like that. It is fairly frank. However, it is won like numerous like YA awards because it is depicting like a young adult going through this experience. And so as a consequence, it arrived in many school libraries, was promptly challenged because people who are having way too much time on their hands decide that it is a moment of national crisis if people who are between the ages of 13 and 18 have to question the gender presentation that we are given when we're young. At any rate, I'm really glad I read this. It is very much in the vein of, if you've ever read graphic novel memoirs, there is kind of a specific tone that they evoke. And I feel like this book really slots very much into that. Like, it could be part of a course on memoir graphic novels that includes like Persepolis and Mouse and like a bunch of these big, heavy hitting names. Like, it has a lot of the same style, very heavy like voiceover as opposed to linear incident. But I thought it was very good, very moving, very good at depicting a particular perspective. Like I've been saying, I struggle with the non-traditional pronouns. I hope that Maya forgives me. But definitely worth reading. Put them back in the school libraries. People need to chill out, maybe care more about children in Gaza who are starving as opposed to children who are maybe questioning whether or not they should wear a dress. But that's just me.
All right.
That was not a lightning round.
That was a great lightning round.
That was not a lightning round. That was a slow rolling thunder over the plains
and
round.
You said beautiful things. So why don't you talk about the author of this book?
Yeah, so to wrap back around to the Newberry Chronicles, we read It's Like This Cat, and the author's name is Emily Cheney Neville, born Emily Cheney, I believe. And she was born in Manchester, Connecticut. It's been a while since we had an author who was in Connecticut, but for a while we were really hitting a lot of Connecticut authors. So here's another Connecticut author. I don't know what Connecticut is. To me, it seems like an enormous suburb for New York City because all of these authors end up in New York City at some point.
Are you telling me you didn't watch The Gilmore Girls?
The Gilmore Girls seems like a suburb for New York City.
I know.
Anyway, she grew up, went to Bryn Mawr, which is in Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia. We've seen Bryn Mawr. It has a great name. Looks very Welsh. However, after she graduated from Bryn Mawr, after Emily Neville did, you will never guess where she began to live. Rebecca, I will give you one guess to imagine where our author began to live after graduating from Bryn Mawr after having grown up in Connecticut.
Jackson, Tennessee.
New York City.
Oh.
The Big Apple. So she moved to New York City, and she worked for the New York Daily News as an office girl. This was in 1940. And then after working for a short amount of time for the New York Daily News, she became a profile columnist for the New York Daily Mirror. She studied economics at Bryn Mawr, so I'm not sure where the connection between economics and journalism was, but she eventually fell into the journalism world. Worked there for quite a long time, several years, until she met a guy named Glenn Neville, who Wikipedia simply describes as a newspaper man, which I think is incredible. I know that journalism is dying in the United States. However, we need to bring back the career of newspaperman. Forget reporter, forget editor, forget all these subdivisions of careers. We need newspapermen. I want to feel like I'm
newspaper person.
Newspaper person, yes, I'll be inclusive. We need to be feeling like we're in His Girl Friday. Where you are yakking on the phone about listen, Jack, stop. There, man robs pet store. Stop. You're telling the telegraph operator what to say. She meets Glenn Neville. Mm-hmm. It's love. They get married in 1948. And she very quickly afterwards gets pregnant because it's 1948, and I don't think they've invented the pill yet.
Oh.
If they have, she's not using it. They have 5 kids together.
Okay.
And reasonably, she decides, I'm going to take a break from journalism. I'm going to take a break from writing in general while I raise these kids until they become school age and they're not in my hair anymore.
All right.
As a person raising kids, I can relate. It's quite a while until Emily begins writing again, but she eventually starts writing children's books. Her first book, It's Like This Cat. She's really been charging up her powers. Hit it out of the park. Won a Newbery Medal. Wrote several books for teens and younger audiences after It's Like This Cat. Apparently wasn't satisfied with that, and good for her. She got her doctorate in law. What's called a JD. I had to Google that. In 1976. And she began a private law practice while also kind of still working on the side as an author and wrote several more books.
Wow.
While being a lawyer operating a private practice. So very full life, full of lots of very great professional achievements. She lived until 1997 when she died in Keene Valley, New York, which is somewhere in upstate New York. I don't know where that is. It's not New York City anymore, but it's also not Connecticut, which is where a lot of our authors die. So I did find 2 very good quotes that describe her, her philosophy for writing. First quote, "My writing is probably an outgrowth of my childhood in a large, clannish New York New England family, mingled with my own quite different experiences raising 5 children in New York City. I think that that connects to the book that we're about to discuss. The second quote: "The job for a writer of junior novels is to shine the flashlight on good things and on bad things. It is not our job to preach that this is right and that is wrong. It is our job to show how and when and why wrong can be so overwhelmingly attractive at a given moment and how right can be found in some very unlikely corners."
That's beautiful.
And I found that critics really appreciated her quote-unquote like sociological approach to writing, where a lot of times she was kind of presenting communities without judgment. She specifically mentioned that for her, plot was not important as character. And I think that really takes us pretty seamlessly into the plot of this book. It's like this cat, which I think embodies a lot of those values. So, Rebecca, you take up the mantle.
Okay, so It's Like This Cat is the protagonist of this book is a 14-year-old boy named Dave who lives in New York City in the 1960s with his father, who is very prone to yelling, and his mother, who is asthmatic, most acutely when Dave and his father are fighting. And after one fight in particular, Dave runs out into the street and almost gets run over by a car when his eccentric neighbor Kate rescues him, and he strikes up a deep and beautiful friendship with Kate, who keeps to herself for the most part and whose house is overrun by cats that she rescues and cares for.
Is it at the beginning? I feel like he's already known her.
He has, but he does a flashback to that moment. I think, or that's my memory of it.
He calls her Aunt Kate, which seems to indicate that, like, they know each other, but she's not really his biological aunt.
No, but they do, if I'm remembering correctly, they do a flashback to that scene where he first, like, kind of comes into her house and knows who she is. Now, I could be remembering this wrong, because guess what, you guys? I finished this book first.
I'm sorry. Someone was busy reading Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus.
I said I wasn't going to brag about it, but I did finish it first. Anyway, so I could be wrong about that. Anyway.
Right, go with Before the Fall.
So one of these cats that she cares for ends up in Dave's care. And it's kind of like the cat in Breakfast at Tiffany's. It doesn't have a name. It's just Cat.
That's a name.
Right.
It's capitalized.
And this cat leads him on many adventures. He runs into a troubled teen named Tom, who's in the middle of a robbery.
We love Tom.
We love Tom.
Tom is great.
That he's been set up to perform.
His girlfriend? His girlfriend seems amazing.
Okay, also, I pictured Tom as the kid in The White Lotus.
Which kid?
The one.
The kid who drinks the smoothie with the poison in it?
Yes, him.
Oh, no.
He's just so sweet. And
does he have a brother who is related to Arnold Schwarzenegger?
So he's just, like, so sweet and is trying his best, but is surrounded by people that don't really care about him.
What do you suppose the Venn diagram is between listeners of this podcast and watchers of The White Lotus?
And then his girlfriend is Sabrina Carpenter. So anyway, I don't know how she ended up.
Is that in the show?
No, just in the book. Like, his girlfriend in the book that I picture was Sabrina Carpenter.
I was about to say, I do not remember the Sabrina Carpenter plot in The White Lotus.
It's not there. Anyway, okay,
There's
so moving
Sabrina
on.
Carpenter plot in It's Like This Cat, though.
Tom is in the middle of a robbery that he's been set up to perform. Dave also, along the way, meets this girl named Mary that he falls for. That's really delightful. And
Coney Island.
The cat is, like, pretty central to their falling in love because she really likes the cat, remembers the cat, remembers Dave. In the middle of all of this, we also witness Dave's friendship with his old childhood buddy, Nick. And it kind of falls apart.
Nick seemed like a real putz.
Well, Nick is also more interested in dating girls than Dave is at this point, and he just kind of wants to bring Dave along on all these double dates that he's not interested in.
He's like his wingman.
We also see Dave's father take Tom under his wing and helping him in his legal troubles, because I don't think we mentioned that Dave's dad is a lawyer. Later on, Dave's family also helps Aunt Kate, who is thrust very unexpectedly into the public eye when she really wants to be left alone. And I would call this book overall like a coming-of-age story, even though the book doesn't cover a long stretch of time. You're really just seeing Dave's character develop. And the cat is at the center of this growth. So that is my plot summary. What did you like about this book?
There were 2 moments that I realized that I really liked this book. I guess there are less moments, but 2 elements of this book that I really are kind of central to what I like. One is, so this is a book, I don't remember if you mentioned it, but he's in New York City. This kid just lives in Manhattan, and his parents let him have free reign. And you know that this kid is on the level, because what this kid does when he has free reign of New York City is he takes the subway everywhere. Every day in this city, he's like, and I took the subway to this place, and then I took the subway to this place, and then I took a bus to this place. And let me tell you, when you live in North America, there are very few places in this world, or in this continent, where you can say, I took the subway and I took the bus places. And that'd be just a normal part of your everyday life, unless you're living in dire poverty in Knoxville, Tennessee. As a lover of transit, I truly, deeply appreciated just how central public transit was to this book. And that may sound inconsequential to people, but I really do think it's an important part of this book that this kid is given autonomy in a space where he feels safe. He's like 14, right, in the book. Like, he's not like young, but like, I think that so much of modern life for children is kind of gatekept by the barrier of transit and like, how are you going to get there? And in a lot of stories, what that amounts to is the kid having dependence on their parents or dependence on an automobile. Mm-hmm. Usually the parents are the gatekeepers for the automobile. And I do truly think it is lovely that like this child is able to not just get around in very extreme places via public transit. Like, this kid is they're going to vacation in like Vermont or something like that. This kid jumps out of the car to chase his cat and then takes the bus and then the subway home. I think that's beautiful because nobody should have to own a car to go places. But moreover, what this kid experiences by riding public transit is a sense of community and a sense of place. And this novel has an impeccable sense of place. Mm-hmm. Manhattan is different from Brooklyn. The neighborhood where Dave grows up is different from like the place where he has to go get fish for his cat.
Yes.
And that is different from Coney Island where he meets his would-be girlfriend. That is different from like there's a real sense of and you go to these different places and there are different people there. Mm-hmm. Like he goes to the fish market and that is like in a Jewish neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And he goes to Coney Island and obviously Coney Island is what Coney Island is. He lives in his neighborhood in Manhattan, which is what it is. And I just think that like that is a fundamentally broken part of American society, which is that we rely on automobiles, which fractures our engagement with the spaces around us. Whereas this guy is very in tune with spaces around us. And I think the book does a really good job of making that part of the narrative. Like there is a part where they get on like the wrong bus or something like that, and they've got to walk across like several blocks to get to a different bus. And like that sense of place, that sense of space, that sense of distance makes this book feel extraordinarily lived in and like I mentioned, the critics talking about sociological. And I really love that. The second thing I really loved is Aunt Kate. Mm-hmm. Like I think what this book does with Aunt Kate is like honestly very moving. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is that a brother of hers dies and leaves her a bunch of money. And this is a woman who's like a crazy cat lady, right? Mm-hmm. She lives in this apartment. The only reason he knows her is because of his sense of place, because he's wandering around encountering people like we should be doing rather than getting in our cars and being in our like little hermetic tubes going places. Mm-hmm. And so this woman is debilitated by the fact that she's gotten all this money from her brother's death. She was estranged from her brother, and basically just gets like $1 million from him. And all of a sudden she's swarmed by the press. She is swarmed by everything, and all she wants to be is left alone. And I think that is like deeply beautiful. Like, and it like is a really perceptive moment when Dave wanders over to her house and like kind of like ducks through the paparazzi to talk with her, and she's sobbing. Like she's just like really upset. She's just like, I just want to live my life. Mm-hmm. I do not want this money. I do not want anything, but I am trapped in this scenario in which like I've become an object of attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that again speaks to something very beautiful about living in a community, which is that like a community doesn't have to be a place where like everybody is scrutinized all the time. Like a community can be a place where people are allowed to be who they are. And maybe sometimes who you are is a person who is fairly private and has a bunch of cats. And like Dave and his father realized this, and his father like uses legal expertise to figure out how do we best like help this woman with all this money she's ill-equipped to figure out what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
And he helps this woman by understanding like here's her place, here's what she's comfortable with. And I think that like a lot of times when we think of communities and stories, we think of kind of like Salem, Massachusetts in the Crucible, where it's like this like very cloistered community that is very like high control and very like everybody is scrutinizing everybody and everybody is fused with everybody. But I also think that community can be something different, which is that we know each other enough to realize what we need,
mm-hmm.
and we can give each other what we need.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes what we need is not to impose upon each other, but to simply allow people to have peace.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a lot of moments in this book like that, where there's this sort of like insightfulness about like a person's position within their society, and to recognize, you know, what does this person need right now? How can I let this person just kind of exist rather than have demands upon them?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what did you like about this
Well, I
book?
think you said that all very beautifully. I agree with everything you said. I just don't think I could say it that well. But I loved
Wow.
I loved this book. I was really surprised by it. I don't think either of us came into this book with like high expectations because it was about a cat, and
It's not really about a
But
cat,
it's
though.
not
Like, the
about a
cat is
cat.
surprisingly marginal in this book.
it's like this cat, but it's not about this cat, you know?
Yeah.
Like but I thought this was just such a lovely story. I really, what I loved the setting, definitely, of New York City in the 60s. It's very bright, vibrant, it's very bustling, and I'm sure it's nostalgic for people that, like, knew New York in the 60s.
It is very much in the vein of, like, Breakfast at Tiffany's or that sort of thing.
Like, I don't know about this world, but you've painted a beautiful picture for me that is, like you said, like, very, like, clear about its sense of place. And I think that just comes through. And the fact that, like, it's such a short book, like, told through the first person perspective of this 14-year-old, that we can get that sense of place. I just think it's, like, brilliantly done. And I didn't feel like it was an adult telling me about this place. You know, like, I knew it was a teenager.
What is the... Sorry, our book has some, like, little blurbs from reviewers at the bottom.
Yeah, they're so funny.
Let's see. It is different, humorous, with a touch of the vernacular, and a great feeling for the city and its many peoples, says the Saturday Review. And the Christian Science Monitor says, good. Here's a nice change from the books for boys that are set in idyllic countrysides, hardly known to many of them. I agree. The conversation is modern, teenage, but never phony. I agree.
Never phony.
That's it. Like, it's not phony. It's a very genuine book.
Yeah, a completely satisfying book it is. And I really did feel that when I was reading it. I think that there is a simplicity of the dialogue, but it's very much set in its time, that really delivers that theme and story. And, you know, something I was thinking about while you were talking is like, okay, Michael's probably so tired of me hearing about this. So tired of me talking about this podcast, but I've been listening.
Is it Amy Poehler's podcast, Good Hang?
So, yes, but she had, I think it was like when Haley Williams was on there, they were talking about, or maybe it was, what's her face? Maya Hawke. Anyways, one of them. And they were talking about a lot of children's stories, like, kill the parents off so that the kids have, like, an independence that they wouldn't have otherwise to really, like, tell their stories well.
But all they really needed was robust public transit.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this book, you can do that without, like, this is a kid that's still very clearly attached to his parents and has, like, a caring relationship with them, but can kind of, like, live his life on his own. And I think, like, this was just a great story for that. A great setting for that. I really did love the way that the author portrayed his relationship with his dad, which is fraught and struggling, and then it's juxtaposed against his dad's relationship with Tom. And this is never like, this is what I love about this book, is it's never like too on the nose or in your face about it, but you can tell, like, Dave has this admiration for his dad and like his like expertise in his field, that he can tell Tom, like, hey, I think my dad can really help you out right now with your legal struggles, and I think that he would have some good advice for you. And he knows that his dad, who really has very little patience for him as his son, will have like a deep level of compassion for Tom. And he has this admiration for him, and I think there's also this longing there, like watching his dad relate to Tom. Like, I think there's a longing there to know, like, how do we repair our relationship? How do we have the same thing? And so you can see that tension and recognize that tension as a kid that like both admires your parent, but can also be like, why can't you give me what I need right now? That is just so like beautiful in the story, that it's not like his dad's not a villain, and also his dad is doing wrong things with him. But his dad is also like a really good person that's helping this other kid. And then they have this moment at the end where his dad realizes, like, hey, I'm not actually listening to you. And I recognize that this thing that I thought wasn't a big deal is actually like a really big deal to you. And I can come and tell you, like, hey, next time I'm going to let you finish your program before I just turn it off. And that is all the like character development that you need to move the story forward. And I just think this author has like a very, she just does that very well in like a lot of different scenes like that. And within that, I really like the way that you get different adults' personalities and interests through the eyes of Dave. It's like really subtle, but it's profound. So you see his mom's subtlety versus his dad's like robust, kind of gruff nature. And then you see Aunt Kate versus his own parents. And then you see like Mary and Nick's moms versus his own. When I just
Isn't Mary's mom like a beatnik or something?
Yes.
I actually like love that.
Yes, but also it's like Mary feels kind of neglected by her. You know?
Yeah, because
I mean?
like she doesn't ask her where she's going or whatever. She has complete
Yeah.
freedom to like just walk out of the house, and like she's just like, oh hey, see you later.
Yeah, and you hear Mary like recognizing that like Dave has parents that actually like keep up with him and pay attention to him, and that longing for her of like, man, I wish my parents had that too. And I just think the way that she displays all of these different like parenting styles, but with that like artistic subtlety where you don't feel like there's anybody but a 14-year-old boy telling you this story. Like, I thought it was really, really beautiful. And I just think it's a really simple story that's not about a lot, but it is about a lot at the same time. And that's what I liked about it.
Yeah, it's like there's like a kind of subset of children's stories which are just like a bunch of incidents strung together, and like this fits into that. Like, you know, like Beverly Cleary books are often like that, or like a book that like I think we had less positive things to say, but it has a similar structure, like Roller Skates, which is a Newbery Medal winning book, has that same feel. And like, to be honest, I don't really see that many children's books like that anymore. I don't know if this mode is really like being actively engaged with these days. But I really do think it's a mode with a lot of possibilities where, like, a lot of childhood is just like one thing happening after another, and like because you're a child, because you don't have like complete agency in your life, like sometimes life just kind of happens to you, and there's all these different webs that intersect in ways that don't immediately seem apparent, and maybe will never tie together, but do create like a sense of like this three-dimensional life, and this definitely falls in that tradition, I would say.
Yeah. Is there anything that you disliked?
Yes, and I feel like I'm repeating myself from last time, but I don't even know if I dislike this. And again, I'm repeating myself from last time, but like one of the book ends, the very last scene of the book is Tom, the guy, the kind of troubled youth that Dave's... Guy. Yeah, the White Lotus guy. The troubled youth has gotten a job and all this stuff. He's starting to get his life together. He's got a girl, and he decides he wants to marry this girl. His girlfriend seems awesome, by the way. His girlfriend seems like a real stand-up person. Her name is Hilda. But the very last scene of this book is him deciding he's going to enlist in the military. And not only is that what happened at the end of the last book that we read, but also I couldn't help notice the publication date of this book, which is 1963, is right before the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which means that this man is going to be going to Vietnam. And, like, I just found that so incredibly depressing. And, like, it is treated with zero... I mean, in 1963, there was no sense of, like, what Vietnam would become. Vietnam is not even mentioned. Who knows if he even goes to Vietnam? But he's going to Vietnam, you know, historically. These are not characters who would have, like, sat down and said, like, here's why I don't like the military because of, like, these kind of, like, neo-imperialist projects by the American Empire. Like, you know, whatever. Like, these are not, like, communists. These are not people who are going to be having a robust critique of the American military, especially because Vietnam is one of the things that causes the America to reconsider its military. Before that, we're still kind of coasting on the, like, FDR, like, kind of like, we have complete trust in American institutions sort of thing. So, like, it is unrealistic of me to expect there to be an anti-war statement within this book, but I found it very depressing. And it maybe says something about, like, the myopia or, like, the charmed life that our protagonist leads, that, like, it's viewed as a positive life step. This person is enlisting in the military rather than a kind of sobering reality of living in America at the time. And it left a sour note for me at the end of the book. Again, like I mentioned with the last book, it doesn't really square with the environment that we're in for there to be, like, an anti-war perspective in this book. Nonetheless, it was kind of depressing for me that that's how it ended. Because otherwise... And maybe this is also a critique of the book. Otherwise, like, this is a very, like I said, charmed life. Like, there's no poverty in this book to speak of.
Well, I think that Kate is kind of in poverty.
Maybe, but she doesn't seem to lack for her material needs. You know, there's no homelessness. There's no violence in this book. You know, the one...
There is violence.
But it's like... It's like scrappy, like, schoolboy violence, right? There's not, like, shootings or things like that, like things that we kind of associate with, like, kind of modern American life now. They're not present in the book, and so maybe this book is naive about, like, certain things about the modern world, including the military. I don't know. It's not a huge thing for me with the book, but, like, that is the one thing from the book that kind of left a sour taste and maybe felt like that the book is idealistic about, like, what life can be rather than, like, actually clear-eyed about what life is. But we're talking about, like, 4 pages at the end of a book that's almost 200 pages long. So
yeah, you know, I had actually forgotten about that, but I remember being sad about that too. Like, that this is his only way out. Like, this is his only way forward, is to enter the military, and it's seen as, like, this praiseworthy thing.
And that's so many people, right? Yeah. Like, one of the things that the military does. And I know a lot of people who have greatly benefited from the military because what the military presents for you, and he mentions this in the book, is the military pays for your school. The military gives you a path toward middle-class stability. And that is true as long as you don't get shipped off to die in combat role, or be traumatized.
PTSD that you can't
recover
from.
One of the things that I think a whole generation of Americans discovered in the 1960s and 70s is that, you know what the military does to the people that it sends into combat and does to the people that combat is against is maybe not worth the kind of middle-class entree that it offers. Again, this book is not in a position to critique that. And so maybe that's not fair of me to critique the book for that. But, like, it is depressing. Like, I see at the school where I teach, like, the recruiters come, they don't say, hey, you're going to go and be susceptible to PTSD. You may be killed. What they say is, we'll pay for your college. What they say is, we give you health care.
You have community.
You have community, right? You have this camaraderie with your company and all this sort of stuff. And I think that is fundamentally like a half-truth that the military presents people who are 17, 18, 19 years old with. And I find it enormously depressing when I see my students, listen to that. Maybe they understand the cost of that. Maybe they don't. I found it very depressing in this book. Is there anything else? I'm sorry, I'm talking over you.
No, and other than that, I didn't really have any complaints about this book. There was nothing. Again, we came in this book with very low expectations because we've never heard of it. We knew it was about a cat, but there was nothing I wanted to see that wasn't there. And other than that, like nothing that I can think of that would make it better. I think overall, I really, really enjoyed this book. It was really great.
I did too.
So we both give it I give it a thumbs up.
What do you think I'm going to give it?
I think you're going to give it a thumbs up, but
I will.
I didn't want to say that for you.
There was no way I wasn't going to give a book a thumbs up that has its character exclusively move around via trains and buses.
I don't know.
I shouldn't say
that's
exclusively.
True.
Like the family is going on vacation in an automobile,
a car.
But he jumps out of the automobile and then rides the train home.
Yeah, you know what? The only time where it's like a negative transit experience is in the car because the dad was not going to go back for the cat. We didn't explain that.
The cat jumps out in the middle of traffic on the New Jersey Turnpike or
and
something.
the dad was just going to let him go because they were on their way to vacation. And so he jumps out of the car, chases after the cat, gets his way home. His parents meet him back there. And that's
his parents just expect that he found his way home, which is wild.
Well,
to
they
me.
were really scared when
but they didn't stop to make sure he got back in the car. They're like, oh, we'll go back to our house and he'll eventually make our way.
No, my understanding was that they turned around as immediately as they could and got home because they got home before he got there.
That's true.
So
yeah, the automobile presenting its allure.
but what I'm saying is what's really funny about that is that's the only negative experience you have in transit is when they're in the car and then that's a big comeuppance for Dave and his dad. It was great you came back for me, but you were gonna let my cat just disappear, and that was okay with you. So anyway, I just think this was a really great story, and I give this thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
So,
fund your public transit. Congestion pricing in all American cities now.
Done. So, do you want to talk about what book we're reading next?
Yeah, so next time we're going to be in the 1970s, which, has a lot of good ones. Honestly, Rebecca and I have talked about this off the pod. I don't know if we talked about it on the pod, but there was some alchemical magic within the within the Newbery Committee in the 1960s and 70s where they just magically picked a lot of good books.
They're great books.
Rebecca's not read this one, but I have. So this is Robert C. O'Brien's novel, Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim, which is a book from the 1970s that won the I said that twice. Won the Newbery Prize, the Newbery Medal. That'll be the book we read next time. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope all of y'all are too. Yeah. Anything else?
Nope. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much.